So my wife, this is like just a complete introduction. My wife introduced me to this show through a work friend on the British version. And this is completely true. I watched the British version and I was like, okay, it's pretty good. Then when we heard it was being remade into an American version, I watched it and I have to give you guys kudos. I think personally, your version is better than the British version.
Oh gosh, I mean,
thank you.
That's very nice of you to say. Like, you know, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and I'm not going to say that our show is better than theirs. I honestly, I mean, I love both shows, and I think they just do such a great job. And obviously, they invented this whole concept and populated it with such great characters. So I appreciate that, but I love the British show. I think it's incredible.
But we did think when we saw it that it definitely lent itself to adaptation, and it could be something that could be made into an American version, and there was a reason to do a remake, you know, versus a lot, you know, some shows don't cry out for it as much. You know, this one seemed like it could be about something specific and about, you know, something American.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to kind of jump right into that. But first and foremost, as I was telling the rep before we started this interview, congratulations on being part of a network comedy that I really do foresee getting some Emmy love, because I feel like it's been so few and far between nowadays. And this year we had, I don't want to talk too much about the other shows, but I feel like there's 3 really good network comedies that might actually get Emmy love. So, and you're one of them. So congratulations.
Oh, I mean, that would be incredible. You know, it's such a crowded field. There's so much content on now. But yeah, that would be wonderful. Who wouldn't want that?
All right. So you kind of brought it up, and I wanted to kind of touch upon that as my first question. And that is, you know, the BBC version of this show launched in 2019. Within the 2 years, it was already developed into a Americanized version. Can you talk about how you got involved and why such a short time period between the two?
Yeah, we actually came on board. I think they had only done one season, and CBS had acquired the rights to it. And they called us. We've worked with CBS in the past, and Joe and I had written a supernatural comedy like 5 or 6 years ago that was sort of loosely based on our own never-ending relationship, and it was about 2 vampires who were married and have been together for 500 years. Joe and I are not romantic partners, but we've been in a 22-year writing partnership. And
nor are we vampires.
Nor are we vampires. You know, and we watched the British version, and as we were saying to you, we really responded to it, and we thought it was something that was that there was a reason to adopt it. We could make it different, and we could make it our own thing, and you know, shine a light on American history and society. You know, so we were excited about doing that.
And I loved how the British show was super funny. It was like really hard jokes, but it was also like a good-natured show. It wasn't mean humor. It was very you know, lighthearted and positive, and you just liked everyone. And I just really responded to that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the question, and I don't mean to ask you this because I know you don't have the answers to everything, but I'm just, in your opinion, you know, why is so much stuff from, you know, Great Britain, BBC, and all this stuff kind of redone over here in America? Because obviously you have the obvious choices like Shameless and Office, but another show that is recently kind of was remade was Miranda, and you know, that's now Call Me Kat. And I'm just curious because I looked this up before I did this interview. There's over 140 different shows that were started out as British series first that then became American series. And I'm just wondering, just in your opinion, why do you think that is?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't know the answer. I think one possible answer is, when you go in and pitch a show, it's, you're trying to get them to understand what the series could be. And so, a lot of times people now use visual aids, and even some people are cutting together sizzle reels. But when Joe and I came up, it's basically you go in there and you sort of like pitch the premise, you pitch the characters, you pitch, what the pilot episode might be and what might the series be. And it's sometimes it's hard to imagine. And I think with a pre-existing show, you can also just go like, that's it. And they can see, okay, oh yes, that's a TV show. I can see what it looks like. I can see what episodes are going to look like. So I think that might be, probably like the one of the simplest answers is just, it's, you can point to proof of concept and be like, this is a show that can, go multiple episodes and is compelling and good and funny and has fun characters.
Okay. And then I was wondering, this is probably going to be a very long answer, but that's okay. I was wondering if you can walk me through how you came up with each of the characters and then match particular actors to have that kind of personality.
Well, so when we sat down, we were obviously basing the show off the British show as
Right.
the template, which is why the cast is so large. Joe and I would not have thought to have 8 ghosts, I don't think, had we thought of this premise originally. It's just like, it's an unusual number of characters for an American sitcom. But because it already existed and there was that proof of concept, we're happy that we got to have all these characters because, to have, characters that encapsulate American history in some form, it's hard to narrow it down, obviously. And as far as the, there's an alchemy, with matching the actors with the parts, and after you cast it, the actors kind of start to blend into the parts a little bit and inform the parts, because of who they are and what they bring specifically, from their personalities to their backgrounds to their, to all different things that they bring to the table. You start to write toward the people in addition to the characters.
And as far as what, coming up with the characters, I think the first thing Joe and I did is we came up with a list of probably like 25 to 30 just American archetypes, pilgrims, whatever, and we started to sort of realize that like, okay, we should probably zero in on a location because, the list of historical archetypes is going to be different in the Southwest than it would be in the Northeast, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things early on that we stumbled upon was we realized that we could credibly place a Viking in upstate New York from about 1,000 years ago. The Vikings settled in parts of Canada, and they kept very detailed journals of their sort of like journeys down the coast. And obviously they didn't refer to the places by name, but how they described them, people who are a lot smarter than us have sort of divined that like, okay, yes, they went down the coast of New York. They would have gone inland to do some sorties, some sort of exploratory missions and type. So we were kind of like, a Viking, that's really fun. That's something that you don't necessarily think, oh, American archetype, but it is someone that could have credibly been in that area. So and that just seemed like a big fun character to have. And then of course in the the Northeast you have that's where modern day America started and whatnot. So we just sort of started talking about the different characters that might be there, and then just kept whittling it down. You want to make sure when you have a bunch of characters that there's not too much overlap on personality and archetype and stuff like that. So we just sort of kept talking about each character and what we liked about them, what was fun about them, and came up with our 8 eventually.
Yeah, and some of them were heavily informed by the British characters, obviously, but we put our own spins on them, and some of them were wholly original. But like they had the 90s politician who has no pants on, and we changed that to a finance bro, which we thought was a very American archetype. We also already had a politician in Isaac who is a military man and a statesman from the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, kind of as a follow-up to that is, Was there a particular actor that you saw when you saw audition, you were like, there is nobody else who's going to play this character besides this person?
Absolutely. That's really wonderful when that happens. I know, I mean, you might say that about all of them, but like, I know when we saw Rebecca Wasaki's audition for Hetty, it was just immediately like, oh my God, that's her. And we saw a lot of people for that part and a lot of wonderful, amazingly talented actresses. And it's, sometimes it's just about being right for the part or just nailing it. And she just came in and immediately from her first sentence was like, oh my God, that's Hetty. That's incredible.
Yeah, she really brought a character to
Yeah.
the part. A lot of the, I mean, that's the thing about casting is you have to see a lot of people, and then this happens a lot. Or if you're lucky, is one person will just come in and be like, holy, it has to be them, and like that's the good thing about it. You can see 100 people, and it's not like you need 10 to be right. You only need one to be right. I would say Asher Grodman, just when he popped up on our, we saw a tape from New York. I was like, this guy was like risen out of the script. And he hadn't done comedy before, really, he says. And, so he just sort of, for some reason, I thought that guy would come from New York. I thought we'd find a finance bro in New York. He has such a New York vibe. Yeah, so I would say that was true of him too, in terms of like not having seen anybody else that even seemed remotely like that person.
Yeah, and I know a lot of focus is always on the ghost with these shows, but I mean, I think the casting of Sam and Jay was spot on, and right, they really they're kind of the linchpins of the entire show, because if you don't have those cast properly, the rest of the ghosts are just kind of characters, and you need someone to kind of steer the ship. I was wondering what the audition process was like for those two.
Well, Rose MacGyver came in to read, and she just blew us away. She was so good. And she, she has so much on her shoulders in the show, obviously, and it all kind of rises and falls with her. She's very just winning and likable on screen, and she's really funny. And she's kind of playing that person in the center of the show. But what's so great, I think, about this premise is that sometimes that person in the middle of the show, surrounded by the zany, crazy characters, can tend to be a little vanilla or bland. But just by dint of the premise, she's like basically someone with a mental disorder in the center of the show, and is just very funny, and she executes that amazingly. She has to do whole scenes without anybody there, pretending they're there. And Utkarsh, same thing. He brings so much to the table just with who he is and his vibe and his he's very improvisational, and I think they're a great complement to each other.
Yes.
He has the best Asian working in Hollywood today, because I see him pop up more than anyone. He's like the male version of Tiffany Haddish at this point. Like, he's everywhere.
He's tireless. Yeah.
He is. Yeah, he's tireless, and he's crazy talented and super likable and a hard worker. It's like,
and he's writing movies and producing them now. And yeah, he's just, and right, he's in so many shows. He's
yeah, and his part also is incredibly important, because as Joe mentioned, Rose has to be listening to all these people. He kind of has the opposite of that, where he has to be on stage and he has to ignore these 9 hilarious actors who are all, I guess to ignore 8 of them, who are all around him. And he just, I mean, I think that's sometimes really hard, because they're all so funny. And it's, so yeah, he has a big challenge as well that he does very well.
So one of the things that I've been very happy about with network TV as of the late, I guess I want to say the last 5 to 6 years. And I think I noticed it mainly when Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was out. and that is writing jokes for network television that you really shouldn't get away with writing jokes for. And I mean, this show has one joke that is set, pretty much centered around most of the episodes that you guys got away with. I want to know, how difficult is it to kind of incorporate jokes like that without the network flagging?
The trickiest part is to basically govern ourselves that we don't get too carried away with it. We tend to get a little giggle happy in the room as we're sort of writing those jokes. And I think what you're referring to is the idea of the ghost getting sucked off as they
yes,
heaven.
exactly.
And the British creators get full credit for that. That's a term they started in that series, and they had emailed us saying like, "Hey, just so you know, this is the term we use, and feel free." And like we ran with it. So and I mean, with CBS, it's pretty clear. As long as it's referring to a ghost ascending into heaven, then they are fine with it. I'm guessing if we went too far and it would become a tonnage issue, but I don't think that's become an issue yet. But if it's ever unclear, like that we might be referring to something else, then that's where it sort of becomes like an issue, which I totally understand. And seems reasonable.
Isaac as a character is also something that, again, I feel like seeing that explored on television, again, traditional, it's so weird because you're comparing stuff to cable and streaming so much, but you would never see this like 10 years ago. This is something that would just not happen, but you've been able to kind of give him this whole arc of like him coming out this season. And I think that's really incredible. And I love that you did that with every one of the characters. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Was it always the idea of developing a story arc for each one of them?
I mean, yeah, I think that was our goal. We didn't know what everyone's story arc would necessarily be from the start of the season. And even with Isaac, that was something that developed as we wrote that Dungeons and Dragons episode that John Blickstead and Trey Colmer wrote. And, that was like the episode where we first met Nigel. And we just really liked how Brandon and John Hodgman, the guy that plays Nigel, we just
Hartman.
Oh, sorry. Oh, John Hodgman is another actor. I'm sorry. Hartman. We really just like their dynamic together, and we decided we wanted to explore that relationship more. And Brandon has talked about this in interviews and stuff. Like, it's just sort of a really cool story to explore this guy who's been closeted for 250 years. You can't really see that on any other show. And he's taking baby steps, and we're taking things slowly with his character and with the relationship. But it's a unique opportunity to get to tell that story, which is different than it would be in another show.
I agree. And then I know you guys have to run, but I wanted to end with this. Is there a particular ghost that you resonate with the most?
Oh gosh, I never know how to answer questions like this.
I don't know. What ghost? I don't know.
I guess I'm probably more of a Pete type than any of them, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. What do you think I am, Joe? You're probably Trevor.
Maybe you're Pete, because Pete's very into Dungeons and Dragons, and he wears glasses.
Yep.
And he's like a fun dad. I could see that.
Did I not say Pete for myself? That's what I meant to say. Did I say?
Yeah,
No, you did say
okay.
Pete. And honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, I literally looked at you and I was like, holy shit, did you model the character off yourself? Because I really get a lot of the vibe from it.
Jay, I would say Jay has a lot of my characteristics if I were cool. He's sort of into so both, and Jay is also into Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm an amalgamation of Jay and Pete.
I feel like
leaning more Pete.
Yeah, and I'm oddly, I feel like a little bit like Samantha. No, I love rom-coms. Like Joe's kind of more like the Dungeons and Dragons, like nerdy energy, I think, to the show. And I'm a little bit more like the rom-com, loves HGTV side of things.
Oh, can I ask one last question? I know you have to run, but I was very curious about this, and it's something that just popped in my head. How do you decide on the ghost screen time? Because this is something that I did notice when I was watching all these episodes, is that I feel like there's certain characters that get more screen time than others. Is there a reasoning behind that?
Well, as far as screen time, no, there's no master plan. You know, in the first season, not all of the ghosts were all episodes, just simply because of the size of the cast for budget considerations. Some weren't. Oh, so there's ghosts that just don't appear in some of the episodes. When we got picked up for the back five, the network was kind enough to splurge and put everyone in, and in season 2, everyone's going to be in every episode. But other than that, no. If we do our job correctly, it'll be even. You know, it's like in episode by episode, it's, you know, with 10 people to service, there's always going to be a couple people who are very light in any given episode, and we're going to try to obviously spread that out, because we don't want it to seem like, you know, it's just this person's show more than that person's show, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, as you know, in season 1, as we discovered the Isaac arc, you know, that necessitated doing, you know, 3 or 4 stories on that. So maybe there was, whether it was correct or not, the illusion of him, you know, being more prominent. But again, that's not our design or hope. We kind of want.
Yeah, no, we really wanted to be even. They're all so talented, and we have a lot of stories that we're excited about telling for all of them.
We have an.
I was just wondering. It was just something that I've noticed. Like, for example, again, just to show you. I mean, I don't know how many of these interviews you do a day, but like, I watched every single one of these episodes, and you know, like Flower to me was the character that I sort of felt was there sometimes, and then like was gone for a couple of episodes. But you explained it, and it makes complete sense that, you know, you're juggling a lot of characters, and now that you have a second season, you can kind of dive a little bit deeper into those characters.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. And again, best of luck to you. I'm really looking forward to second season, and I hope you get some Emmy love for this.
Thank you. That's so nice of you. Thank you for doing this.
We really appreciate it.
No worries. Have a great one. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.